We're starting to get down to the wire when it comes to the NFL playoffs. This is only the third time since the 2002 realignment and the first since 2013 that 7 of the 8 divisions are still up for grabs with 2 weeks left in the regular season. 5 teams have already locked up playoff spots with 2 still undecided. In addition to some of the division races, the race of the 1 seed and conferences only bye is a hot topic with the Broncos currently in the driver's seat. Let's bring in our guy, John Breech, to explain some of these scenarios and then whether he thinks that these are going to play out that way. Breech, you've been doing this all season. No need to stop now. Let's talk about the Broncos, who look to clinch the division, the AFC West, and the 1 seed. They take on Kansas City here. Take me through the machinations of the Broncos.
Yeah, let's start with that number 1 seed in the AFC, Tommy, because they could clinch it. It could be theirs by the end of this week. And so for that to happen, though, it is a complex scenario, almost a long shot scenario, you would say. But obviously, the first thing they have to do is beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Obviously, the Chiefs are not going to have Patrick Mahomes. They are not even going to have Gardner Minshew. They're going to be down to their 3rd-string quarterback. The Broncos are heavy favorites there. So you feel like the Broncos will win that game. But to get the 1 seed, they also need the Chargers to lose to the Texans. They need the Patriots to lose to the Jets. They need the Bills to lose to the Eagles. And they need Jacksonville to lose to the Colts. So we are talking about 5 different games that need to go their way. The Patriots are big favorites over the Jets. But the other games are completely possible when you're talking about Buffalo losing to Philly, the Chargers losing to Houston, and maybe Jacksonville losing to Indianapolis. Now, if the 1 seed doesn't happen, the Broncos can still clinch the AFC West this week, and this one is not complicated at all. If the Broncos beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day and the Chargers lose to the Houston Texans, that's it. The Broncos clinched the AFC West for the first time since 2015. You know what 2015 was, Tommy? Not only did they win the Super Bowl that year, but the Super Bowl was at Levi's Stadium in California, and that's exactly where the Super Bowl is this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels to 2015 here in 2025. That was the Peyton Manning swan song over Cam Newton and the Panthers there, Super Bowl 50. By the way, Denver's going to be, as you mentioned, 12.5-point favorites at Kansas City. Let's get to the Patriots, who are looking for their first AFC title since 2019. That's important because after that, it's been all Bills since then. So take me through this one.
Yeah, this is the one where it looks like New England might be able to finally knock Buffalo off their perch. It has been since Tom Brady was there. The Patriots have not won a division title since Tom Brady left. And now when you look at what they need to do to win their first AFC East title in 6 years, it starts with number 1, they have to beat the Jets. We see that here. They are a favorite in that game. So it feels like a game New England should win. And then they need the Bills to either lose to the Eagles or tie the Eagles. And when you look at what Buffalo has struggled with this year, they haven't really been able to stop the run. They've had one of the worst defenses in the NFL this year when it comes to stopping the run. And so when they're about to play a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who have really come alive over the past few weeks on the ground, in Philadelphia's last 3 games, they are averaging over 170 yards on the ground. Saquon Barkley has caught fire. So that is absolutely a game that Buffalo could lose. And if that happens combined with the Patriots win, now you're New England. You get to celebrate Christmas. You get the Merry Clinchmas because you clinch that division title. And that means you also get a home game in the opening round of the playoffs.
I like that. Would you say Merry Clinchmas? It could be potentially there.
I'm trademarking it as soon as I'm done here, Tommy. Don't try to steal that.
I might get that in before you do, my guy. Jaguars can win the AFC South here in Week 17. How do they get it done?
Yeah, this is absolutely unpredictable. I don't think anyone saw this coming, that Jacksonville would potentially clinch the AFC South before we even, but before we even get to the final week of the season. So for Jacksonville to win this division this week, they need to beat the Indianapolis Colts, and then they need the Texans to either tie the Chargers or lose to the Chargers. And so the thing with Jacksonville is they are going to know when they take the field on Sunday if they can clinch the division, because let's not forget that Houston game versus the Los Angeles Chargers is on Saturday afternoon at 4:30. So by the time that game ends on Saturday night, if the Texans lose, Jacksonville is going to be extremely motivated, knowing that they can clinch that division title on Sunday against the Colts. And let's not forget, Jacksonville still has this kind of long shot scenario to earn the #1 overall seed. So they're still very much alive in that respect. So it's not just about winning the division title this weekend. They can also stay alive for the top seed as long as they beat the Colts.
A lot going on in that Jacksonville Colts game this weekend. Let's get to the Steelers, where I think, Breech, it's a little more simplistic of what they have in front of them when it comes to their division, the AFC North.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is not complicated at all. The Steelers can clinch the AFC North in one of two ways. The first one could actually happen on Saturday because the Ravens play on Saturday night against the Packers. If the Ravens lose that game, then Pittsburgh clinches the AFC North. And that would actually create an interesting situation because if the Steelers have clinched the AFC North by the time they take the field Sunday, they don't really need to play their starters against the Browns. And I know Mike Tomlin was actually asked about that this week, if he would play his starters if the team had already clinched the division. And he didn't really commit one way or the other because that is a team that has some older veterans, Aaron Rodgers. And so if you can give them an extra week off, I'm sure Mike Tomlin would love to do that. But of course, if the Ravens do win on Saturday, that means the Steelers have not clinched the division, but then they could do that on Sunday with a win over the Browns. So either Pittsburgh wins and they clinch, or they can cross their fingers and hope that Baltimore loses Saturday night, and that is how they clinch the division. So one of those two ways.
All right, so we're done with the AFC portion of the scenario conversation. Let's go to the NFC, where there is one game that has ramifications for both teams, Breech, and that's going to be Seattle at Carolina. Let's start with the Seahawks here.
Yeah, a lot of teams around the NFC are going to be watching that game because that game not just has implications with those two teams, but the Buccaneers will be watching closely. The Rams will be watching closely. The 49ers will be watching closely. And let's start with the Seahawks Panthers, just because Seattle can actually Seattle can clinch the #1 overall seed this week. It is a very, very unlikely scenario. We are looking at it at the top there. The only way the Seahawks can get the top seed in week 17 is if the Bears and 49ers game ends in a tie. And then obviously they have to win and the Rams would have to lose to the Falcons. So when you need a tie in any of your scenarios as the only way out, that's usually not going to happen, but it is at least a possibility. So now you look at the chances of the Seahawks clinching just the NFC West. Let's forget about the 1 seed for a second. That would involve them beating the Panthers. Then they would need the Rams to lose or tie the Falcons. And then they would need the 49ers to lose or tie the Bears. Now, you look at the 49ers game specifically, they play on Sunday night. So the Seahawks play Sunday afternoon. 49ers play Sunday night. Well, the 49ers are playing a Bears team that's going to be well rested. Chicago played on Saturday in week 16. The 49ers played on Monday. So Chicago's going to have 2 extra rest days there. And then you're looking at a Rams team on Monday night that has to travel across the country and play a road primetime game, which is never easy. So the Seahawks will be watching both the Sunday night game and Monday night game closely if they do win on Sunday afternoon over the Panthers.
Now, how about the other side when it comes to Carolina?
Yeah, in the Carolina Panthers situation, there is only one way they can clinch the NFC South this week. First, they have to beat the Seahawks. That's a tall ask, but certainly not impossible. The Panthers have absolutely thrived as underdogs this year, and we've already seen them beat the Los Angeles Rams at home. The Panthers have been a pretty strong team when playing at home. We're looking at the scenario there. So as long as the Panthers beat the Seahawks, and then if the Buccaneers lose to the Miami Dolphins or tie the Dolphins, Carolina would clinch their first division title since 2015. And as you said, Tommy, a lot of parallels because the Super Bowl is in San Francisco just like it was in 2015. And the Broncos and Panthers could both be in the playoffs just like they were in 2015. And then obviously there is that tie scenario there if the Panthers tie the Seahawks and the Buccaneers lose to the Dolphins. But that scenario feels like a long shot.
Yeah, no doubt. It still could all come down to at Tampa Bay Week 18 for Carolina and Tampa for the NFC South. And then you hinted a little bit about what Chicago has in front of them, trying to clinch the NFC North, given what they'll play, which is Sunday night, and what Green Bay has going for them the day before.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bears are in a very interesting situation because they do play the 49ers on Sunday night, but they will be watching that Packers-Ravens game very closely on Saturday night, because if Green Bay loses that game, then the Bears clinch the NFC North. Now, I know we talked about the Ravens and the Steelers a little bit earlier, where if the Ravens lose that game and Pittsburgh clinches the division, they might rest their starters. The Bears will not do that if the Packers lose on Saturday night. Even though they would have clinched the division going to that 49ers game, the Bears are still alive to get that number 1 overall seed. So they are going to want to very much win that game Sunday night, whether the Packers win or lose Saturday. So let's say the Packers win, then the Bears can clinch the division with a Sunday night win over the 49ers. But either way, whatever happens Saturday, that is going to be a very important game Sunday night that the Bears are going to want to win. And then obviously, I think we saw that long shot scenario. The Bears can also clinch the division this week if the Packers and Bears both play tie games, which, when's the last time there was 2 ties in 1 week, Tommy? Has that ever happened? This isn't 1965.
You're the guy that knows. I don't know. You're the guy that knows all this stuff off the top of your head, which is amazing, by the way, because, again, you do this every single week, and you have all the tiebreakers and the clinching scenarios. The good thing is, John Breech is here to deliver to make you sound smarter with your family this holiday season. Breech, certainly appreciate it. Again, when we take a look at some of the things that's going on this weekend in terms of our slate, but because we have 3 Christmas games, 2 Saturday games, Sunday's more of a slim fit sized slate this week.